exist.
Okay.
But somebody started this, and I'm not sure who it was. It may even have been Dr. John Mack. So people have been following it since then. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but that got started somewhere along the way, and everybody's been using it, and it's technically an incorrect term. But yes, indeed, once I began examining the alien abduction issue, I recognized the signature of the demonic approach, which is not to say that aliens are in any sense demons, as some people would like to think. They would like to think that they are ethereal creatures that somehow suck our energy out of us and use it to manifest in some semi-solid physical state, and that they then, when they leave, they go back into these ethereal realms and they are no more. Trust me, that's not what it is. They are really physical beings. But they have a demonic signature, which means that their approach, the line of force that runs through their operation, their modus operandi, is negative.
Yeah, we're talking about one specific alien group, or just like aliens in general?
We're talking about any alien that abducts anybody ever at any point in time.
Okay.
Period.
So there's something negative about that anyway. It just strikes me.
Well, it never ceases to amaze me how many people will justify being abducted or being accosted or being worn down over many years of slow and steady approaches, or sweet and honeyed words, or different sorts of persuasive ways and means. And let me tell you, I've seen them all in people's heads when they're under hypnosis and they got a demon in them.
It's amazing how people can rationalize being continuously violated like that.
Well, when a person doesn't have sufficient will to resist, or they don't have sufficient wherewithal to combat a level of force and even, shall we say, technology that they cannot comprehend, they have no choice but to rationalize it. I mean, it's Stockholm Syndrome. That's all it is. And the aliens on the planet or around this planet or manifesting in our reality, they're playing good cop, bad cop. I mean, there are an awful lot of them that are just as sweet as pie, and they tell all these wonderful things and how special and chosen people are, and we chose you to bring a message to mankind, and you've got to save the planet, and blah, 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 blah. That's just the good cop, bad cop routine.
Yeah, for the sake of our listening audience who are not familiar with the Stockholm Syndrome, could you very briefly explain what that is?
Well, Stockholm Syndrome is kind of a term that was applied to a situation that occurred in Sweden. There were some people who were abducted by terrorist-type individuals, if I remember correctly, and after a period of just a few days, they began to identify with their terrorists, because the terrorists, of course, showed acts of kindness to them. I mean, they had been abducted and they were being held in a prison-like situation. They were being denied access to things that human beings would normally expect under regular living conditions. Yet these abductors showed some kindness to their captives, care for their, are you cold, are you too hot, are you hungry, would you like this to eat, would you like that to eat, different little touches. And after just a very few days, the abducted people began to identify with their abductors, and then they began to side with them philosophically, ideologically, and
that's what happened to Patty Hearst.
Patty Hearst is a prime example of the Stockholm Syndrome. She became one of them in a very short period of time. I mean, it can happen in a matter of just a few days. So don't imagine that when you're dealing with time-traveling, mind-marauding aliens, that over a period of years you cannot be converted a la Stockholm Syndrome to their way of thinking and be completely, perfectly, and totally convinced that they are here to help you and that the things that they tell you, and they can tell you the truth. Trust me. Demons tell the truth.
Oh, yeah.
They just tell it from their point of view.
Right.
So it's quite a chilling situation we're looking at because, based on statistics, millions of people are being abducted. Over periods of many years, most people do not even remember it. And believe me, if you have a missing time episode and you think you've been abducted, the only thing that makes a missing time episode is the aliens screwed up with their technology, because most people experience no missing time at all.
Oh, interesting. Now, you think that the great majority of people who have been abducted just have no missing time episode?
Right. They have no symptoms whatsoever, except they have symptoms, but they don't have symptoms in terms of saying, oh, I'm missing time. Missing time is when there is a glitch in the process, and the time, the point of time from which you see what they do is they have like time locks. They extract you from a point of time, and they reinsert you at that precise point where they extracted you, so that if it's done properly, you don't experience anything at all except perhaps some physical symptoms, or you have nightmares, or you have strange dreams, or you have post-traumatic stress symptoms. Any numbers of physical, mental, emotional things can result from these abduction processes.
Yeah, I remember I've been reading Dolores Cunningham's book on abductions, her last book, I believe. She said, these alien beings, they have this control over time itself.
Time lords.
Yeah, and this is the first time I've ever heard anybody present this theory that missing time is just an alien glitch.
Oh, that's true. I can assure you of that. And this is not just something that has come out of somebody's head just because I've had them under hypnosis. Because realistically speaking, when something comes out of somebody's head under hypnosis, it just is out of their head. It's subjective until you can verify it in some other way, at least theoretically. How does it work? It's just a subjective impression. It's somebody's opinion, or it's their personal experience, or truth to tell, it can be confabulated. They can be making stuff up, or they can be getting the wrong impressions or misunderstanding things. That's why people have psychological problems to begin with. They misread the experience. Their emotions kick in a certain way because they have misread the experience, and then they react to something that isn't at all the way they think it is.
What percentage would you hazard a guess of people, the number of people in this country have been abducted?
In this country? Oh, that's a tough one, because there's a I'd say 2%.
No, 2%?
2% of 275 million. How many is that?
Richard, you're on the line. You're the whiz with numbers, and why don't you figure that out for us real quick?
It's a scary number.
Yeah, it's quite large, he says. Okay. Yeah, you can come online there. Yes, it's quite large.
Yeah. And I think it's probably pretty accurate because, as Jacques Vallée pointed out, just the abduction cases we know about, because people have reported them, and the sightings that we know about because people have reported them, doesn't tell us anything about the many cases that are unreported because of, A, the person doesn't realize something has happened because they don't have missing time, they don't have any overt alien abduction symptoms, or B, they're afraid of reporting it because they think they've lost their minds.
John Mack made the statement that we are all abductees at some level. How would you construe his meaning on that?
Well, I think that perhaps he has a point, because in terms of the matrix reality in which we live, we've been abducted from birth. But let me put it into better terms. I don't mean the matrix reality in the sense that people have been abducted, but I mean we have been abducted by our society, by our reality, by our programming. And it's social, cultural, it's, it covers a broad range of experiences that we have as we grow up that serve to conceal from us the true nature of our reality.
And we're going to get more into that later in the show, this whole concept of the manipulated matrix. Before we go to break, which is pretty shortly here, this idea that people have been abducted who have no inkling at all because of, for one thing, no missing time. What about like someone, like myself? I've had no real obvious signs, no weird, marks on my body when I wake up in the morning, or nosebleeds, or certainly no missing time that I can remember. Any episode of that? Would there be some really subtle signs that would indicate you've actually been physically abducted?
Physically abducted. Physical abductions occur rarely,
So you think most abductions are like what they call OB?
That runs through their operation, their modus operandi, is negative.
We're talking about one specific alien group, or just like aliens in general?
We're talking about any alien that abducts anybody ever at any point in time. They go back into these ethereal realms, and they are no more. Trust me, that's not what it is. They are really physical beings. But they have a demonic signature, which means that their approach, the line of force to say that aliens are in any sense demons, as some people would like to think. They would like to think that they are ethereal creatures that somehow suck our energy out of us and use it to manifest in some semi-solid physical state, and that they then, when they rest.
Okay.
But somebody started this, and I'm not sure who it was. It may even have been Dr. John Mack. So people have been following it since then. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but that got started somewhere along the way, and everybody's been using it, and it's technically an incorrect term. But yes, indeed, once I began examining the alien abduction issue, I recognized the signature of the demonic approach, which is not